There we go.
Thanks so much, Eric. That was a beautiful welcome as well. And I love the way you guys start this meeting. It is so fun. Um, oh, I am nervous. I'm like, do I actually qualify for this meeting? I don't know if I do. Yeah, it's wild, but I am so grateful to be here. And for the fact that you think that I qualify makes me eternally grateful and shows that clearly, this program and the work that I've done are shining through, even on a Zoom camera, which is pretty incredible. Um, I'm also grateful that I see some familiar faces that joined me. So thank you guys for supporting me. Um, and I'm just grateful to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. That's all I can say. Um, so I was reflecting on the fact that I have been sober way longer than I drank at this point, which is such a miracle. Um, I can't even believe it. And it wasn't completely linear. I'll get into it, but I will say that the majority of my life, I have been sober now. And I thank God for that every single day. I also thank God that I hit a really disgusting low, low, low bottom by the time I was 19 years old. And it made me be willing to do anything, uh, anything. And I'm also glad that my first real introduction to sobriety was straight up big book. That's what it was. It wasn't the meeting makers make it. It wasn't just hold on and don't drink. It was sit your ass down, shut your mouth, and go through this book at like 2 days sober. And it brought me freedom. And for me, my reality is like, I believe I was born with this disease. I came out of the womb being like, what is life? I don't understand this. I don't get you people. I am constantly uncomfortable and afraid. Uh, and, I started off just like trying to fit in, putting on different masks to try to be a person here on planet Earth. And the way I described it was like, I'm from Pluto and I don't get how to do life. And by the time I was in the seventh grade, I, had my first drink and I needed it long before that. And what that looks like for me is I was sitting on a street corner with a couple of girls and everybody, took a couple sips of vodka and we thought, oh, well, we'll just drink before our parents get home from school or from work. And we'll sober up by the time they get back. And what ends up happening for me is I wake up in the hospital 14 hours later with a blood alcohol of 0.48, smashed face, black eye, poison ivy from head to toe. That was like one of the first nights I drank. So to say that I have this disease is pretty clear. Um, I my whole family had probably suffers from alcoholism in one way or another. Some can manage it, some cannot. And I believe that's the genetic component for me. That once I started, cannot stop, that I was, 5 feet tall, probably weighed 100 pounds. And I'm the one that drank that bottle of vodka. There was no reason other than the fact that like once I was on, I was on. And I know that today because someone brought me through the doctor's opinion. So I also was reflecting on the spiritual malady of that time in my life when I was in seventh grade. I was thinking about this. Uh, I had moved towns because my mom thought, oh, a geographical cure, go to a new school, then she'll be okay. And I moved to this new town, and I remember the first day of school, I was like so deliberate on what I was gonna wear, how I was going to do my makeup, how my curls were going to be so that I could show you all I was this nice little good girl. That was my plan. And I remember that feeling like so consumed with self. I was just like, how can I show you guys that I'm okay? Because on the inside, I'm dying. And it worked. It worked. I made friends with the nice girls. Nice girls. I wanted to be a nice girl so bad. Sometimes I still want to be, and it's just not who I am. But anyway, I made friends with them, and those were the ones that invited me over, and we drank that vodka. And what do you know? They found out who I really was, and they banned me from hanging out with those girls. And from there on, I just continued to hang out with people who were, you know, less and less and less and less, so that I felt just a little bit superior, because inside I was destroyed. Um, by the time I was 14 years old, 15 years old, I found another substance. And for me, that's really what brought me to my knees, because I wasn't someone who like woke up every day and drank, but I was someone who woke up every day and needed to put something up my nose. And what ended up happening, like, hmm, um, because when I drink, I am vicious, I am violent, I am angry, I'm ripping doors off hinges. When I do these other pills, I'm calm. I can do my homework. I go to class. I watch movies with my family. I remember my mom saying when I was like in the seventh grade, or not the seventh grade, sophomore year, mind you, I'm getting high the whole time. And she's like, wow, Molly, you really calm down. She didn't know that I was on these little blue pills that would make anyone calm down. And I had the drug dealer boyfriend, and we had a constant supply, and I got high all through high school. And I just put my head down and skated my way through. And I'm a really good manipulator. So I befriended the principal of my school, and he used to let me, I would get in trouble all the time for smoking cigarettes. And eventually I'm like, well, I'm not going to stop smoking. So he let me leave school during lunch and go smoke cigarettes. That's how I've always gotten away with things like that. They gave me a reduced day, because I was like, well, I'm not coming in at 8 o'clock like everybody else. So I got to come in at like 9:30. I think I'm the exception to life. I always have. And I knew how to get what I wanted, alcoholic through and through. Um, by the time I graduated high school, in the books, I went to this like school, there's 4,000 kids, and it was a pretty big school. And each year I was technically a freshman till the day that I graduated high school. I never had like the real senior privileges, because I wouldn't go to gym class and you needed to have gym or all these things. I was just a punk ass kid who had a severe darkness inside of her. And I remember graduating high school and having our graduation party, and I am like blacked out when I should have been like enjoying that. I should have been there like excited, and instead I'm just like blackout numb. Um, and my mom thought, again, get this girl out of this town, get this girl away from this boyfriend. And she wrote my college essay, and I went to college. She wrote my college essay, right? Good old Al-Anon. Um, so I went off to college, and I really had no idea that I was addicted to these pills, because I just had them 24/7. Like, I mean, you don't even know. Until I got to Rhode Island and they weren't there, and I was sick as shit. And my alcoholism, my drinking continued throughout all this time. And I remember like everybody in college partied, right? We'd get a bottle of brunettes, and we'd like be pre-gaming, and they'd leave some, and I'm like, we can't leave that, what do you mean? Like, and I would finish that, I would go shots before I even got to the club. And I'd be blacked out, and I wouldn't even remember any of it, the whole night gone. I every time I drink, I black out. And I would have done anything to get the fix, the high of the other substance, and I did. um and then, you know, I skated my way through that freshman year, cheating, manipulating, lying, hurting everybody that came around me. I was in such a dark place during that time. Like, we were we were taking some crazy ass MDMA for a while, like 3 months straight, and the devil took over my brain and all these weird things, and everybody hated me, and I couldn't look anybody in the eye, and it was terrifying. Um, and I came home, and I remember I have a beautiful stepfather who, thank God for that, man. He is the rock in my life. I also have a pretty messed up biological father. Um, but I remember I sat on the back porch with my stepdad, and I remember the conversation like it was yesterday. And I was like, Dad, I got a drug problem, and I'm destroying everything in my life. And I need help. And my dad at the time like was like, okay, baby girl, like whatever we need to do. I'm gonna go talk to your mom. He walked inside the house. I stole his wallet, I stole his car, and I went to Lawrence, Massachusetts. I wanted so badly to stop, and I couldn't fathom the idea of actually stopping. And I ended up, living in this gross, disgusting house for a couple of weeks in Lawrence, and just every day I would tell the drug dealer, um, like, I'm going to rehab. Let me get high tonight. But I'm going to rehab. I promise, I promise, I promise. And he would. And then eventually, by the grace of God, and I can say it was the grace of God today, we ended up getting robbed pretty badly, and there was nothing left. And I remember laying on the floor vividly, and just laying there, like waiting, just what do I do? Like maybe somebody will fall asleep and I can find something somewhere. And nothing came. And instead I picked up the phone, and I called my aunt who lives in Texas. Because as much as I want help and as much as I want to do the things, I'm still terrified and I'm scared. And I I didn't want to get yelled at. So I called my aunt in Texas who really can't do anything. And she said, "All right, baby girl, I'm gonna call your mom and you're gonna do whatever your mom says." And I don't know why, but I did. And my mom like she just showed up. She didn't ask me any questions. She protected me from all the shit that could have got me in trouble, wouldn't let me go into the store, like wouldn't leave my side, just laid there with me while I'm detoxing. And she brought me to detox, and she sat with me for hours, and they make you go into withdrawals before you actually get to see anybody. And she had no idea the pain that little girl was in. She had no idea what was really going on. And I always say, like, the fire alarms are going off, but I don't even know if they were, because that's how sick and broken I was and miserable. That's what it felt like. Um, and from there, my journey started. This is 2012. August 2012. And I really thought, I'm just gonna get clean and I'm gonna go back to college and I'm gonna be okay. But God wanted something different for me. And I remember I'm sitting in McLean Hospital, and they gave me two options. They were like, you can go to this dual diagnosis treatment facility, or you can go to this 12-step treatment facility. Like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, dual diagnosis, I have trauma, PTSD, I'm borderline personality disorder, all these things, blah, blah, blah. Like, if you knew what my dad did to me, you would do this too. That's where I wanted to be. Did I end up there? No, of course not. I ended up at the 12-step facility, no doctors, no medication, just a bunch of addicts, alcoholics throwing the big book at you. And literally, they give you a big book and they give you a notebook and they say, sit the fuck down and shut the fuck up. And like, excuse my language, but that's the reality of it. And that's what I needed. They said, stop torturing your mother. You're not going to call your mother. You need to do this. You need to like surrender to this thing or you're going to die. And I believed them. And because of the pain I felt and how broken I was inside, I would have done anything they told me to do. And I did. And they read that book to me sentence by sentence. They explained to me that I wasn't just a bad girl, that it wasn't just because my father kidnapped me and left me in Guatemala when I was a kid. None of that. I had an allergy to alcohol. And that once I started, I could not stop. I do not metabolize alcohol the same as other people do. And I was like, whew, okay. I can get behind that. Cool. Got it. Makes sense why I can go shot for shot with the boys and not throw up. Right? Like my sister has a couple of beers and she's nauseous. Like, and no, me, I also am the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Once I start drinking, the woman that I am goes out the fucking window. I'm going to either fight you, sleep with you, or rob you. That's what happens. And despite myself. And then I wake up the next morning hating myself. And by 5 o'clock, I'm like, man, it will be different this time. Or not even that. By 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, this hurts too much. I got to sniff something. That's the truth for me. I can't stand it. I cannot stand being sober without a solution. And they explained this all to me. And these people that worked at this place, I had been to meetings before and I was like, I don't want what any of you people have. I'm sorry, I don't. My grandfather was 27 years sober when he died, and he used to leave us on Christmas to go to a meeting. And like as a little kid, that pissed me off. Like if that's what you need to do to be okay, I don't want it. But these people at the treatment facility, they traveled the world, they played music, they had beautiful relationships, they were fun, they were laughing, they were like badass. And I knew they used like I used. So fine. I did what they did. And the next thing they said is like, you believe I believe. And I'm like, all right, dude, fine. Fine. And they said, you were going to take a third step. And all that is a commitment to finish the rest of this work. Okay. And we all like sat or got on our knees and held hands and said this prayer. And I had no idea what it meant, but I understood a commitment to finish the rest of the work. I understood that. And then the next thing I know, I'm writing a massive inventory. And I had 9 notebooks. Mind you, we had nothing better to do than to write inventory. So I don't recommend that actually. But I wrote 9 notebooks. I had quadruple alphabet, triple alphabet on my father. This man dominated me, and he can still dominate me to this day. I'll be honest with you. Sometimes I still have pretty bad nightmares. But here's what's different because of this work. I have compassion for him. And I also know that just because you're blood doesn't mean you need to be in someone's life. And I had to write out every single thing that he did to me in that inventory. And then I had to look at my part of it. I had to look at my part of all of it. And mostly what it is that, I don't know how deep I was when I wrote it, 12 years ago, but I know today, like mostly is what it is that I have these unrealistic expectations of people. I create this lie of who I think that you should be in my life to fulfill some sort of need inside of me. And when you don't live up to that, I hate you. And then I think that, oh, see, that's the proof that I'm unlovable because you didn't fulfill the expectation that I put on you. And I'm unlovable and you're going to leave me anyway, right? That's the fear. I'm afraid that that's what's going to happen. And I don't think I knew that all back then, but I had to write these things over and over and over and over again. How am I selfish? How am I dishonest? How am I self-seeking? And how am I afraid? I want what I want when I want it. I'm consumed in how Mollie feels. My mom used to joke that she was like, I should have named you Inita because it's always, I need this, I need that. And it's true. Like I talk about how I was back in, middle school and high school. Like, I think I am the exception to life. And I go one of two ways. I'm either the worst or I'm the best. And I don't know how to just be a bump on the log or another human being. Today I do. one freaking day at a time working those steps. You know, all I have is a daily reprieve. Um, yeah. And I remember after I read that massive inventory to this girl, and I'm like, maybe, I don't know, 30 days sober or something like that. Or I just remember that night going to bed for the first time in my whole life. I slept through the night. I used to be in therapy at 9 years old and be like, I can't sleep. I can't sleep. Every time I go to bed, it's just a tape. It's the rat race in my head. It's a tape. It's a movie in my head. And it always turns bad. It always turns bad. Even if I had a good day. That's my alcoholism. It's exhausting. No wonder why I drank. But that night I read that inventory, I slept like a baby. I slept like a baby. And from there, they were like, I'm like, okay, I'm going back to school now, right? Can I go back to school? And I remember the guy that owned the place at the time. I was 19. I kind of looked like I had it together on the outside still. And there was this woman who, for lack of a better word, like had been around the block a million times and was pretty beat up. And he said to both of us, he was like, you may be a beautiful sandcastle and you may be a pile of shit, but you both get washed away from this disease. And he said to me, you're not going back to college. You're not going back to your mother's house. You're not getting your car back. You're not getting your phone back. You're moving to Burlington, Vermont. And thank God my mom listened to them. And I moved to Burlington, Vermont. It was November. I didn't even have a winter jacket. I had nothing. And this beautiful woman on this meeting met me at the door, and she helped me make my bed and gave me clothes and helped me out and had my back. And we lived in this beautiful house with a crew of us. It makes me want to cry because it was such a fucking incredible time. It was incredible. Like the gift that we had, and a lot of us are still standing. We have lost some. There was a girl who committed suicide in that house, and I was about 8 months sober when that happened. And I I I I ran out of the house because I found her, and I ran out of the house, and I kid you fucking not. Excuse my language. Sometimes when I start rolling, I swear, but I don't want to do that anymore. I ran out of the house and I called my sponsor first. And the next thing I know, this guy from AA is walking down the street, and he just grabbed me and held me, and that would have been a perfect excuse to go get high. I found this girl, right? And we didn't. My sponsor showed up there. Hillary showed up there. We all were there. We were praying. We were holding each other. We were saying the third step. And we prayed for that sweet soul, Jess. And that's when I knew. That's when I knew that this stuff worked. That's when I knew that, like, it says your ass is gonna fall off in here. It says when shit hits the fan, in lack of a better word. It says that. You're gonna have a design for living that really works. And I did. I absolutely did. Oh, thank God for those people and that time. And we got to celebrate life instead of mourn it. Everybody's got their own destiny. I don't know what that looks like, but I believe she came back as a beautiful butterfly. Yeah, so I got involved in Burlington Young People's up there. We had all sorts of different events and started recovery walks in Burlington that still go on to this day. And it was amazing. And I continued on with the work, and I made amends. I went to willing to go to any length. I went to every nightclub that I stole from. I went to Walmart and got honest and said, hey, this is what I have to do to make things right. And the girl was like, I got nothing. I don't know what to say to you. But you know what? I don't steal from Walmart anymore. Even though every time I go through the self-checkout, I want to. I really do. That's how I know I'm still an alcoholic. But I don't, because I made that amends, and I made amends to my family. I even made amends to my biological father. And I don't even really remember it. And I remember him just being like, all right,
Like that's pretty much it. Um,
because I did use that man because I knew how to get what I wanted from him. And, when I was sick and when I was struggling, I would often use him for money and I would ask him to get me out of XYZ situation. And that was selfish. I can't have my cake and eat it too, right? So I made amends for that stuff. My aunts on his side, I try to make amends to them, and it's been many years now, and I actually do have a pretty good relationship with one of them. But one of them would not accept it. She said, "You'll never be me and I'll never be you." Like, that's it. And I have to be okay with that. Does it break my heart? Sometimes, of course it does. But all I have to do is clean my side of the street. Um, and I have to be okay with whatever the outcome is. Um, Amends is a fascinating thing because in the beginning, I feel like I did it because that's what I was supposed to do. And now, like, over the years and as time has shifted, it's been a little bit different. It's more of like a living amends and how I show up. I don't call my mom saying, "I need this, I need that" anymore. I call her and I say, "How are you? What's going on with you?" I go for walks with her. I listen to her. I can mostly accept her for who she is. That's the amends. I don't try to change her. She suffers from this disease too. Sometimes we'll be over there, and if it's after 8 o'clock at night, her eyes like to one side, and like I can't change her. I can't fight with her about that. I can't, I have to. Here's what it is: the unrealistic expectations of people. I can't expect her to be someone she isn't, and I have to love all the things she does that are amazing instead of like picking out the one that, "Oh, you don't love me the way I want you to love me." She loves me the best way that she can. And sometimes that's hard for me to see. That's the truth. Sometimes that's hard for me to see. That's why I'm saying that out loud. My stepdad, like I had the conversation with him and he he saved this jar of quarters, just quarters, multiple jars of quarters, only quarters for years and years and years. And who stole those jar of quarters? Me. And it was about the fact that he took all the time to save those quarters. It wasn't really about the money. And I made amends for it in conversation and it took me a long time, but I did pay that back like about a year ago. And he didn't want it. He didn't want to take it from me, but he knew like, okay, she needs to make this right. And I made that right. And I try to like be present with him today. And like he got to walk me down the aisle, at my wedding. And that that man has been in my life since I was 3 years old. He coached my softball. He bought me freaking tampons. He was there picking me up every night. I got shit faced on the side of the road and the cops are calling him. He's the one that got me. And to not let him walk me down the aisle just because I have this idea of like, oh, whatever, whatever. You know what I mean? No, he got to walk me down the aisle. All his family was there on my wedding. That's incredible. Like, that is my dad, 150%. Although it's not blood, like, that doesn't matter. That's what I've realized in this, like, really being open and present to the new experience. Like, when I'm obsessed about the fact that this sperm donor didn't do it the way I wanted him to do it, I'm taking away from the man that did. So, like, being present with what is reality, that's what my sponsor brings me back to all of the time. What is really real in your life, Mollie? And I have a beautiful dad. That's what's really real in my life. I have a beautiful dad who walked me down the aisle, and it was the best day I could have ever imagined. Um, hmm, yeah, in 10, 11, and 12. My goodness. I really, I've always, God has always given me opportunities to help other women. Um, and I often would skip over 10 and 11. I would do it just to be like, "Oh, I pray and meditate," but I didn't really get what that meant. And let me just sponsor you and think that I know how to run your life because I don't want to run mine. Because I can't run mine. My relationship with sponsorship has changed so much over the years. Oh my God, like we are partners we're on this journey together today. I used to think I could tell you, you can't have a boyfriend. Like, it doesn't say that anywhere in the big book. I'm sorry, first off. Um, Now I just love you where you're at, dude, as best that I can. Does judgment creep in? I'm human, but I just try to love you where you're at because that's what my sponsor does with me. Every time I call her and I think I'm gonna get like yelled at for something, she's just like, yo, I'm so proud of you. I love you. Like, you're growing, dude. You're healing, dude. And I'm like, oh yeah, remove that shame, remove that fear. Oh my God. If we're all children of God, then not and nothing in this happens in God's world by mistake, then like, who the hell am I to say what your journey's supposed to look like? I'm not. I don't know what you have to go through to be able to help the next girl that comes along. Um, yeah, so prayer and meditation, like I was on this meditation kick for about like a year and a half where I learned Vedic meditation. I would meditate for 20 minutes twice a day. And it was really powerful. It really was. It was awesome. But I started to like get into this place where if I'm not doing it perfectly, then I'm not doing it right and blah, 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 blah. So I like took a hiatus from it. And now what my meditation looks like in the morning is like, I just make sure I sit quietly for 10 minutes. And I really try to actively just tap into my heart. Days when I don't do this, or if I'm not as still, my brain can get really, really loud. And I can start like going down some really weird paths. But when I take that time to tap in, I'm able to like notice those paths and not play them out. My sponsor likes to remind me that I do have the choice today of like what my next thought or my next action is going to be. I used to think I have a thought, I have a feeling, this is the only, I got to act on it. That's it. I'm powerless over my own brain. I used to think that like up until 6 months ago, but I'm not. I'm so not. I can stop for the most part. I will say sometimes I'm pregnant right now. I'll be real with you guys. Like hormones are wild. And sometimes I can't stop it. But at least I can be honest and I can say to my husband, like, oh my God, this is where my brain's going right now. Like, I need to come back. And he helps me come back, or my sponsor helps me come back. I sometimes I can't do it on my own. That's the truth. That's why we have each other. That's why we have meetings. That's why like I need humans too. Um, yeah, and oh man, my relationship with God today, like that's what is amazing. So I was for 4.5 years, I was in this program doing this deal. I missed this little tidbit here. I After 4.5 years, I drank. And I convinced myself that it was just the drugs, and I was praying like and kind of doing the thing, but I always had this feeling that God was going to punish me eventually for something. I still had that old conception of God. And and during that relapse, it was like 2 months in 2017. I kept praying, like, God, show me the truth. God, show me the truth. And it kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Disgusting. The first night I drank after 4.5 years, I was blackout drunk, crying on my sponsee's floor. And every time I drank after that, like a handful of times, I would be blackout drunk, waking up in some stranger's bed, disgusting. And I was like, okay, God, I guess that's the truth. And that was August 12th, 2017 was my last drink. And during that time my relationship with God changed. So this is my point of saying, like, who am I to know what's supposed to happen and what's not? Because that got me to God, actually, because I still had the love and the support of everybody, and I wasn't like shunned, and I didn't go to hell, and like it was all right. And I realized like God's got me no matter what. And I surrendered completely at that time to a loving higher power that like has me, all of me, good, bad, and ugly. Um, and now, like, every space I walk into, I swear, I'm like, help me to be the wife that you want me to be. Help me to be the woman that Matt needs me to be. Help me to be the daughter I'm supposed to be. And like, I bring God into all of it. My sponsor reminds me, you don't just pray morning and night. Like, you want to have a relationship with this thing, you need to have it with you 24/7. And I do. And when I'm like in self-will and trying to run the show, it's not God that isn't there. It's me that's just like stuck in my own prison in my head for a little while. But that time that I get stuck in there is shorter and shorter and shorter. And I can be like, whoop, all right, let's get back into my heart. I believe God is in here, right? The longest journeys from my head to my heart. And my brain is mentally ill. I have a mental illness called alcoholism that wants to kill me one way or the other. But when I live in my heart, when I live in my soul, when I live with God, I am able to do things that I can't even explain. I'm able to see the gifts of everything, everything. And not always the way that my ego wants it to be, but exactly as it's supposed to be. So I am so grateful that I am an alcoholic and that I have a 12-step program that allows me to live a life that matters. So I'm really grateful to be here. Thank you for letting me share.